First thing on a Saturday morning, and it is really beautiful out here. I'm in the middle of the bush on just a random country road. You might be wondering what the heck I'm doing out here. Well, I've come here to do a little bit of testing because I have gone and stuck a pod filter on my inlet, and we're going to test it out and see what happens. So this motor behind me is absolutely bog stock. I haven't done a single thing to it whatsoever. And now it's time to actually try and start making some power. So I went out and bought myself a very cheap, rather nasty, quite obnoxiously oversized, but at the same time multi-fit pod filter. Hole in the end of this pod filter that I purchased was too big, so I've actually fashioned another spacer to fit in there. Now that's actually come off of an inlet from the spare car just there. This thing it's still sitting there. So yeah, pinched a piece of rubber pipe so that I can make this thing fit. That's always a good question to ask. So I haven't done anything mechanical on this car of mine as yet, so this will be the first change on how the performance of the motor actually propels this thing along, accelerates the little beast. And as much as it's okay, you could take the car to the track and see what your lap times change by. There's so many other variables. So while I was trying to do a little bit of research on these intakes and if they actually make a difference or not, I stumbled upon the YouTube channel, what's it called? Engineering Explained. And he did this wicked little acceleration test where he basically just took the car on a short run, just in one gear, flat out on the accelerator, and you could see the change between having the intake on there and not, or putting a turbo on it or not, or changing out the exhaust or not. So now that I've got this new bit of kit with the timing that has all the, stuff that shows up on the screen, you can use that software to mark out a starting point and a finishing point. And I figure I just pick a couple of 100 meters on this random logging road, third gear, go from 60 to 100 Ks and see what the difference is between the original air take, the new air take. But then I can also do things like the power steering connected or not connected, which is why I've chosen this bit of an uphill curve. We can do other things later on as well. If I change out the exhaust for something a bit wider, we can do that. If I change from the short ram air filter to a cold air air box around the headlight, I can test all of that stuff out and we can find out if this little beastie here is actually performing. Because short of having a dyno to stick it on and find out if it's really making some more power, I figure this is probably the best alternative. So we'll set up this little 100 meter or so test run area, see if we can get some results. That worked a treat. I've just done 5 courses on the little test track that I set up. I've called it Gloucester Curve because this is Gloucester Road that we're on. And it come up really good. All of the runs are very close together in time. But now what I'm going to do is pull this pod filter off and put the connect the original air box back together with the pipe, because all I've done is take that pipe out for now, and do another 5 runs of the same little test run that I've set up, and that should tell me once I extrapolate the data, if this little pod filter thing is actually giving me more power or not. So, woo! Yeah, I'm actually having a blast doing this. This is so much fun too. Making the videos, driving my car, playing with motors, being science experiment man. Now, if this is actually quicker than the pod filter, I'll be quite annoyed. Well, that's all 10 test runs done. Blimey. That's all of the 10 test runs done. I did 5 with the pod filter connected, and I did 5 after reconnecting the airbox. Now it's time to go home, sit in front of a computer and figure out which one's faster. I have my suspicions that there's probably not going to be any difference at all. Meh. The sun's done a few 360s of the Earth since we last spoke, and I've now had a chance to analyse the data and see if there's actually any difference between pod filter and the stock airbox. And so the time that was registered on the timing software for each run, so the 5 with the pod filter, the 5 with the stock airbox, the times were really consistent. So that was awesome. But my concern was there's still a bit of room for error in, am I actually at 50 k's when I start? Do I actually hit the accelerator right at that same marker point every single time? So there's a little bit of room for error still there. So what I also took from the data was the very point specifically where the speedo registered on the software that I had hit 60 kilometers an hour. And from there, I followed the software right through to the exact point where it hit 100 kilometers an hour, and then I could see the time that it took on each of the 10 small videos to extrapolate the most accurate data I could from it. With the stock air filter, I was able to do a time on average across the 5 runs of 10.514. Now, with the pod filter fitted, I was able to do an average time of 10.490. So, theoretically, I actually did better with the pod filter on than taking the 60 to 100 data across all 10 runs, averaging it between each. The average time with the stock airbox was 8.9 seconds. The average time with the pod filter connected between 60 and 100 k's was 9.0 seconds. So I can conclusively say that through my scientific analysis that the stock airbox versus a short ram air filter makes almost no difference whatsoever. It does sound much better though.